On the Level podcast, your Masonic podcast. Join the hosts Billy McIntyre and Sam Earl Sedgey as they delve into the world of Freemasonry.
Welcome to yet another episode of On the Level podcast. I'm your host, Sam Earl Sedgey, and with me is the one and only Billy McIntyre. How are you, Billy?
It's great, Sam. It's great to talk to you, and it's great to talk to all the people that's out there listening to us. Thank you.
I am pumped, brother. I am fired up. We just had a really good interview, and so much so that we are going to be looking into a series of tapping into the Blue Lodges in the state of Illinois and talking to worshipful masters and secretaries. And at some point next year, we're going to do the same thing in England, where you're going to have probably me there and maybe Billy in America, but we'll be interviewing the people at the same time, or Billy with me.
Oh, Billy's going to England with you.
There you go. And then we're going to be doing that in the craft lodges and tapping into their history. And so you guys around the world who are brothers and those who are not brothers but are interested of just understanding about Freemasonry, and the stuff that we love to talk about, brotherhood and hope, faith, hope, and charity, all that kind of stuff. You can see why it's so infectious and we get excited.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's just interesting. It's interesting to see how infectious enthusiasm is, and keeping these great monumental buildings that our brethren before us, sometimes decades ago, sometimes over 100 years ago, sometimes nearly 200 years ago, have built and it's our duty to maintain, restore, renovate it, and keep that flame, keep that light going on. And so, yeah, I'm so excited about this series that we're going to be embarking on.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting. And these two gentlemen, they're the keeper of the flames, if you will. You'll really be impressed with them speaking and the stuff they're doing. And guys, we could have talked to them for 2 hours because they have a lot going, and that building is incredible. And just them describing it.
You'll find that I'm very quiet because they're so infectious that they were answering all the questions I was about to answer, and then I wanted to discuss a bit more. I felt where there was a lot more to talk, but we will get them on back definitely and go for a bit more of a deeper dive. But
so of our good listeners that's been listening for all this time, that's quite a feat to have Sam be quiet through most of the. God bless you guys. Thank you for listening. Please share with your friends and help us grow so we can keep doing deep dives into stuff like this. Thank you so much.
And welcome back to On the Level podcast. Billy, we have some special guests. Would you have the honor of introducing our fraternal brothers here?
Well, I tell you what, I will let them introduce herself, but I'm going to tell you they're from Cairo Lodge in Cairo, Illinois. It is a very famous lodge and one of our oldest in Illinois that's still in its original state pretty much. So go ahead, guys. I know we got the worshipful master and the secretary, and I'll let them introduce herself with their titles.
My name is Scott Walker. I'm the worshipful master of Cairo Lodge number 237 in Cairo, Illinois. And
and I'm Chris DeVault. I am the past master at Cairo. We say Cairo, like we say it like the syrup, but we spell it like Egypt. Just so you know.
Very good.
So those of us from Cairo, as we say, we know whether or not you're from there by the way you pronounce it. So.
I would have butchered it because when Billy said, where it was Cairo.
But anyway, the reason I did that for the people listening, that way you'll know the voice to match the person. Those two guys are the great guys. I've met them 100 times, and they're really wonderful men and friends of mine. So we're going to go from there. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'll defer to Chris. He knows a little bit more about the history and specific dates of the lodge.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to let him just kind of fill in some blanks of the history of our lodge.
Okay, please.
Yeah, so Carroll Lodge number 237 was, find my little notes here somewhere. The charter date for our lodge is October 7th, 1857. And there was a merger at one point back in 1874 where another lodge called Delta Lodge actually merged into Caro. So
Okay.
uh,
And where was
that's
that lodge from?
there's been several people, and that's the number. The Delta is Delta number 568, and I really can't say where that's located. I know several of us has tried to look and trying to determine where that was located, and we can't really quite say, to be perfectly honest with you. But the charter date on that particular lodge, I do know, is October 1st, 1867,
Okay.
and then 1874 is when they merged. So they was only around for just a few years before their merger. So I'm not exactly sure what might have transpired during that time or what was going on. Maybe they tried to go out on their own. I know, uh, you know, different couple people, maybe a couple people from the lodge or whatever, just tried to start another one and just couldn't do it. I know, fairly local Elks Lodge. I don't know if you fellows are familiar with the Elks and the
Sure.
organization. I know they tried doing that, and a couple people from a couple other different lodges trying to start a new chapter, a new uh, club, and just
Couldn't do it. Right.
couldn't quite do it.
So I do know a little bit of that. Just over 10,000 foot view. Back in that time period, Carroll was a hustling, bustling metropolis, very high, even high society, you might say, where they had trolley cars and electricity. Back then was a huge thing, and of course with the convergence of the Ohio and the Mississippi River right there,
major source of commerce.
and they had a rail that went through Cairo. It still does. So it was a metropolitan center back then.
Right,
People
yeah.
wearing top hats and the whole 9 yards from some of the footage and pictures we've seen back.
Well, the good news is we do have a pretty wide stretch of people that listen. So maybe if anyone has any information about Delta that would like to reach out and get a hold of one of us, and I'm sure the lodge would love to know more about it. So
Absolutely. So
even whenever you listen to this, if it's 5 years down the road from now, if you guys know anything and reach out, I'll make sure they find out.
Sure, we'd appreciate it.
So going back just to have a little bit more of a history, our current building that we have, it was actually the cornerstone was laid on it January the 7th, 1924, and then the dedication it was actually dedicated on October 30th, 1924. So there's an anniversary coming up in just a few days on that, as a matter of fact. And but prior to then, I do know that there was some relationships going back again to the Elks Lodge, which is the local Elks Lodge in Carroll. Carroll Elks 651, as a matter of fact, is still in existence, up and running, going good, and everything like that. Even back then, there was a relationship with that organization as well, and at one point, it's like the Masonic building, the Masonic Lodge rented from the Elks. They had over the years they've had several buildings, and I think the Carroll Elks charter is like 1901 or something like that. So we're still older as far as the charter and everything like that. But I think they had a up and coming permanent building at prior to us, as for all my understanding. That is
before they built their own lodge.
And then finally, come late teens, early 20s, they said, "Hey, we need a building," and our lodge building, our Masonic Lodge building, was built to be a Masonic Lodge. It wasn't turned into something. It wasn't turned into a Masonic Lodge. It was built to be one. So.
Yeah. Well, I've seen pictures, and I'm still going to try to get down there. It just doesn't.
Absolutely.
It's hard to work. But could you
Oh yeah.
give guys a little bit of an idea of what this lodge is like? Because this isn't for down in this area. There isn't any lodges like this. I mean, in Chicago,
No,
you
yeah.
might see something like this, but this is a 3-story building, and it's
This
huge.
is
And
a
do you give an idea about the size of the size of the walls? And
oh
this
gosh.
is huge.
We have some records and documents that actually tell us what the architects and the builders, the material and stuff like that. And I think there's probably some dimensions in that
Yeah.
in that paperwork and stuff like that. But I can't say the exact, like square
Yeah.
footage or anything like that right off the top
We
of
can
my
give you an idea, though. To give you one idea, the first floor, for instance, has in the what would be the cafeteria or eating area and the kitchen, they have a drop ceiling, and that drop ceiling probably lowers the ceiling.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, so above the drop ceiling is probably another 4 feet. So total, the first floor is probably close to 16 feet.
Incredible.
The second floor is very, very specialized, and that's where our main lodge area is.
The main hall.
The main hall is, and on the southern side of the building itself, which would actually be the north.
It'd be the
lodge
in the the way it's set up
The
in
way
the
the lodge
lodge
is set up,
room.
yeah.
It would be actually the north.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a
That's a whole, for lack of a better term, a locker room where
Okay.
they had wall lockers set up, and then in that floor.
so at one point in time we had a chapter and a commandery for the Knights Templar there.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So that whole the way Worshipful Master Walker described it is this whole locker room, if you will, goes the whole length of what would be the main hall room,
North
and
side of the hall,
it sits to the north of what would be our lodge room.
Okay.
To put
They put some thought into that, because the north side of the wall of the inside of the lodge itself, lodge area, there's
Right.
no windows.
Right.
But so all the windows that were put on that side of the building actually open into the locker room, for lack of a better term. And then there's another, of course, there's restrooms on that floor as well. And then there's another area that was much more of a lounge,
maybe a waiting room.
not really a prep room, because we have a separate one of those too. And so there's sofas in there, or at least one still remaining, and some more locker rooms. So we assume that maybe they use that for Blue Lodge, and maybe the other locker room for the other appendant bodies or something. And because we can tell that based on some of the uniforms that are still remaining in those lockers.
That's incredible.
So they're old wood built wall lockers with a glass front, so we can see in them, even the ones that are still locked. And then you enter a foyer area where, of course, sign-in book, aprons, and pictures of all of our past Grand Masters are up there. Past Worshipful Masters, and a few Grand Masters, but on the wall, I think, and
some past commanders from the Templar.
So anyway, the whole pictures, and we intend on improving that, because not all of them are up or in real good condition, but we're going to try and improve on that. But that's off to the left of that area is the prep room. Obviously, that would open up into the lodge. And then there's a big, huge, I think the doors that open into the main lodge from that room are, 5 feet wide each. And there's two of them.
Probably. Yeah.
And 7 foot tall, 8, maybe.
And how tall would that ceiling be?
So once you enter the main hall, where we have,
kind of takes your breath away when you start,
that it's actually probably another 2 stories, because as you enter, and if you look back to the
it would
west,
to be the west.
if you're as the lodge is laid out, there is a balcony floor with the vaulted seats. That's been walled off some time ago, probably in the 70s, to help them afford to be able to cool and heat the lodge. So, but it's still there. It's still stadium seating, if you will, up there. So, and to put in proportion the actual floor of the lodge, I think one of the guys, Chris, if you can remember, has paced off how many steps it is.
Okay.
From
Before you get into too much, we got non-Masons listening too.
Sure.
We're just going to, a lot of Masons know how much step lodge is. So we're talking about the steps from basically the steps from the altar to the junior deacon's chair. And Masons use that as a way to determine how big the lodge is. So Masons will understand how big the lodge is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you remember? Because I know somebody's paced it off, Chris. Can you recall? I can take a shot at it, but
I wish I could have got some of the guys on tonight to kind of fill those gaps in. I think putting somebody with like 40 some.
Yes.
40 some.
That's the number I had in mind.
That's what I was told. It's huge.
And that's from the altar to what you were saying, the junior deacon. So that's just half.
Yeah. So you can imagine the challenges having lodge there is, one, you either need to be mic'd up or amplified, or you speak so loud that you get an echo. So it's a very big lodge. So and 2 stories high because of the balcony on the one end. So it's quite amazing when you walk in. We've got folding theater style seats on the which would be the north and south for every visitor that's there.
And our lodge. For our main officers, our lodge seating, or for our main officers, they are roughly around the same period as the time that the building was built, and from one of our members who's done some work, and there's some documents there that. These actually chairs are this seating, which are very ornate, absolutely, and very beautiful and everything like that. Came over from Germany, of all places.
Very cool.
Oh wow!
So and again, those came over somewhere around the same time, give or take. So this not so much the style, but the how big that furniture is,
oversized.
So the oversized is like built for that.
Yeah, throw that type of.
It's certainly a large hall deserves a large seat. So
and that's so amazing to me and I've heard a lot of stories, but that's so amazing to me because all the people there, you got to think in early 1900s when that was built, the average guy was about 5'4", and a little skinny. Because you can tell all these old nice Templar uniforms, there ain't nobody today can wear those. Even the skinny guys are too big for those things.
And another thing, not just the lodge, not just the furniture, our documents that we have. I said we were chartered in 1857, according, but we have documents going all the way back to the 1850s and even prior to that.
Sure.
And and as far as around the 1920s, teens, we have documents showing ledgers showing where members were paying, a few cents here, a few cents there a week to help fund the building of the lodge.
Well, what people don't understand, a lot of Masons don't know now. There was lodge. Masonry went dark. A lot of people don't know that. Sam's more of a historian than myself. There a lot of when the lodges restarted, it started in Springfield. So like the West Star Lodge, it was probably the first lodge in Illinois, in Vandalia, or not Vandalia. I'm sorry, Kaskaskia Island. I apologize. I'm way off. It was the first lodge here. But, it never got a number 1 because it wasn't close enough to when they reset them up, when they reorganized. So I'm sure, no doubt in my life, as big as Cairo was, it had to be one of the first lodges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A couple of things I want to explain to the listeners around the world, because some of the English fraternal brothers will be familiar, and those who are not Masons, it's kind of neat. So when you go to like the United Grand Lodge of England or a lot of English lodges, there are locker rooms, And so the idea is that you would walk in, and some people, not everyone, usually in Freemasons or before everyone gets there, they're all already suited up. They all carry their briefcases, but then they get to basically change and put their aprons and their jewels on, and then they leave their briefcases in the locker room. So in certain respects, back in the days when travel was a bit more time consuming, you would have your suit and your actual your uniform basically. In England, it'll be your black suit and your tie and your work shirt and your black trousers or your black socks and your black shoes. Mainly just dressing up in there, and then you get ready to go inside the lodge, and that was a big thing. So, what brought a smile to my face is how similar, your lodges, the Cairo lodges, in that terms of the historical contents of the locker rooms, and obviously there are other uniforms and stuff for other fraternal orders that was used, and I thought that's very nice because there are some lodges in the US that don't have these locker rooms anymore. Which is a kind of a shame, but they were built more recently than Cairo Lodge and other lodges. So I just have I imagine all these our brethren before us are now in the Celestial Lodge, coming in by horse or and basically getting off the horse and with their wares and suitcases or whatever, and then their aprons, and then getting in and changing and getting ready for lodge. I just think that's fantastic. And how many people can you seat on the sidelines in that lodge?
Oh wow! To ballpark it, I'm going to say 50 on each side.
I'd say that's
without using the balcony.
Without using the balcony, I'd say you could do 50.
Yeah, on each
but
side.
see, there's another floor, Sam. You're not even to the top.
Oh yeah, so we're still talking about the second main hall.
Exactly. So, but I was going to jump back to the first floor just a bit to kind of build on what you were just saying, because on the first floor, before you enter the concession area or where you would have your dinners and meals, there's a hallway that shoots down the left side of the building, and in there, the first room you come to resembles something close to a bank.
It almost it looks like a bank, and
so there's a countertop, and where you could obviously see where somebody would maybe be working behind that counter, and off to the right is a very old and very big safe, walk-in safe, much like a vault you would see in a bank. And from some of the documents Chris has mentioned, I don't think they were running a bank there, but there were definitely lodge-style transactions and documents and mementos and things that were locked in there.
And a lot talk about going back, and the stuff that's in there are some of these documents that I'm saying goes back to the 1800s, not just the Blue Lodge, but also as it relates to the Royal Arch and the Commandery.
Right.
So
we've even found what appear to be some sort of bonds that were in there. We recently discovered them by poking around, because we're starting on our preservation. I won't say restoration has begun yet, but definitely sorting through to try and preserve some of these old documents. And one of our consultants, I guess we'll call him, he's an auctioneer, looked at it and definitely told us that we should look into those bonds more. We don't have a lot more on those, but it was an interesting find, and those were in the vault or in that area.
Well, actually, those were actually found on the third floor.
Oh,
so if you go up to the third floor, so part of that takes up is basically the ceiling of the second floor.
Yes.
But off to the sides again are basically locker rooms. So there's two more locker rooms on the third floor that was for the Commandery exclusively. And when you go into the one locker room, there's another small door, and it actually, there's I want to say a cubby hole, because you can actually walk in there. It's actually the underneath of the balcony for the second floor.
Seats.
And there's a bunch of storage and all kinds of stuff that's in there that we don't really know what's all in there, to be perfectly honest with you. And one of our guy, as I'll call him, walked down through there and just kind of looking around, exploring. We were there. And it's not like we just let them free roam. We were there.
But he's
and
a Mason as well.
and he's a Mason as well. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's a brother. So yeah. So and he's like, hey, look at what I found. I'm like, so there's a bunch of information there that we don't know what we have.
We
haven't
haven't begun to scratch the surface, because there is a lot, especially in that vault. I don't think we've been through a third of the documents in the vault. And down on that first floor, I know we're bouncing around on floors to not confuse everybody, but if you continue past this room I described as appearing like a bank, you come into the
women's lounge,
the ladies' lounge, and there was a separate area for the ladies to go, and they had their own bathroom, and it was carpeted and kind of away from the main activities of the lodge, and it's just really interesting that they had all those facilities because like was mentioned, traveling back there was a big deal. So if your wife was coming with you, they had an area for the ladies to gather,
fellowship,
play whatever they're going to pinochle or whatever they bridge or whatever they did. So sure.
So was there an Eastern Star possibly in there, or no?
We'd have Eastern Star.
We have some regalia.
We have some
Star there, but we don't see any of the other stuff we've seen in other lodges.
We don't see like lighting or anything like that.
So, but that may have been removed over the years.
Could have been merged.
Now we do have a couple of the chairs. They're kind of spread out throughout the entire lodge building, but we do have some Eastern Star chairs.
So there are remnants.
There are remnants of it, and we have some things that belong to like Rainbow Girls and stuff like that. In one of the closets, we have several closets.
Yes,
and a bunch of them relate to a certain body of Masons. Whether it's the Rainbow Girls or whomever. And
so it sounds like that was quite a hub for the.
So yeah,
area.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say it was actually just from our exploration so far, you could tell that it was a center of activity in the heyday. Yeah, it was definitely was. Mm-hmm. So, and because the front of our building, again on the first floor, there are 4 commercial units that could actually be rented out to the general public that didn't open into the rest of the lodge. They're completely separate. Oh, wow. They face the main street, and were vacant for many years. And now we've actually got a tenant in one of them. Thank goodness. That helps a little bit.
And apparently doing well from my understanding. Yeah. And kind of going back real quick, talking about don't think the lodge operated as a bank or anything like that. But here's a little fact for you. Across the street from our lodge building is a bank. And the bank that is there now is not the original bank that was there. It was rebuilt after a massive fire that happened at that bank building. And while they were rebuilding, the bank across the street rented one of our commercial spaces and operated as a bank out in within the lodge
building.
In the lodge building, not the hall, but the lodge building. So
there's a lot of mysteries going on right there.
So they were obviously well entwined with everything that was going on.
Absolutely.
In the day. Yeah.
So there's a lot. If you search through some of those paperworks, obviously you have the whether it's Mark Twain or Ulysses S. Grant. I've never seen that paperwork myself with my own eyes, but I know several people who have. That's just it's there. But if you look, other names that I recognize are basically the who's who of Cairo back in the day.
Yes,
these were mayors, bankers, well influential people, business-minded, business-oriented folks that were part of Cairo and were part of Masonic. In Cairo.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Some of the paperwork that we're still going through and obviously want to preserve, and then we're going to kind of move on to a restoration thing where we can utilize our local university and their students to help us preserve and restore some of those older documents, because some has some water damage, etc. But those are the documents that have this document he's talking about specifically is actually the sign-in log for the hall and on their stated meeting nights. And those are the ones that have the signatures of several prominent people, including Mark Twain, but he didn't sign in as Mark Twain. I think he signed in as his real name, right?
I think
so. We haven't verified either one. We're gonna find it and verify it and then preserve that document for sure. But that's Grant signed in, and that's going to be a nice piece of history
because there's apparently some question, I guess, from my understanding, that of whether or not for sure Grant was or was not a Mason. Is kind of my understanding.
Yeah, we're not sure just yet.
But we potentially have some documentation where, for some reason or another, he may I'm going to just say it that way, may have signed into our hall.
Yeah,
well, that would be pretty good going along the lines of proving it was.
Yeah.
But what people need to think about right there, like they talked about, there's two rivers that converge there, and that's how people traveled. If they wanted to travel fast as well as move goods, they went down the river.
Absolutely.
And
so you got to understand that where Cairo is located, we have river, we have rail, and we have access to all of that. We still do. We have a small airport, but we do have an airport, in Cairo. And, geographically speaking, we are, Cairo is in the center, roughly 3 hours from St. Louis, 3 hours from Nashville, roughly about maybe 2.5, 3 from like Evansville, about 3 hours,
Indiana,
3 hours, and 3 hours from Memphis, Tennessee, and only just a few more hours you can be in Mississippi, Georgia, so
absolutely,
so we are really and truly in the middle of everything and can be in any of these major metropolitan cities now within just a matter of just a few hours, and that's just driving by car.
Sure.
Not talking about rail or river or flight or anything like that, So we are really geographically, centrally located.
Well, I'd like to cut in here for just a second, and just for the people that's listening in England and stuff, I know you're thinking, "Oh, that building's not very old at all," but for us, this is really old. Yeah, exactly. This is really old, and buildings like that over here, where England's been so good to keep their old buildings and just keep them and make them central. In the United States, man, when a building started looking like it's a little bit too much to keep up, they just knocked it down, build another one.
Exactly.
And I mean that's a shame because we've lost so much.
Yeah.
But that's just so that people that's not in the United States can understand this building is huge and significant. And from everything I've heard, and like I said, I'm going to get there this year if I have to walk.
Well, we'll get you down there. So, and I assume I'm okay to tell you, but our meeting nights. So we meet on the fourth Monday of every month.
Yeah.
Usually excluding December, because usually the fourth Monday falls on or pretty close to Christmas. So,
right.
So usually December we go dark, but all the other months we do hold our regularly stated meetings. And again, that's on the fourth Monday of the month. And certainly if you or anyone else out there listening who are
that is a Mason,
good
standing, correct,
and good standing, we got to put all those all that in there. Certainly get a hold get a hold of the way you need to do it. Whether through your own Grand Lodge, if it's not, if it's out of state. Or just
traveling anyway.
And we'd be certainly glad to have you and show you around and
give you the historical tour the best we can. So that's, I wanted to kind of build on what you were saying though about the decision that a lot of lodges or even courthouses down here are facing the same dilemma, where they have got a historic old courthouse and in our case an old lodge, and they have to decide whether or not they want to afford the fix up, the maintenance of this old historic building, or tear it down and build a new one, which sometimes is more cost effective. But I've got a soft spot for these older buildings, and unfortunately, there's a few in Cairo that have already been torn down, fallen down, or both.
Many
of them. And so our next project is, and the lodge has downsized quite a bit in its membership, and of course after COVID, it was quite a hit to active members being involved day to day. So like many lodges, we're facing just attrition from aging and members aging out and passing away. And so we're kind of gotten on a campaign, Chris and I and a few others in the lodge that are more active to deal with the fact that we want to keep the building and just come up with a plan on how we can do that, because most lodges in general can't afford the $100,000 just to get the brickwork repaired.
Right.
We can't either, by the way.
Right. So, but we did have a lot of ideas, and we vetted it and kicked it around a lot. And we've even had some work talking to some of the brothers up at our Belleville Lodge up in near St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Clair Lodge, but in Belleville. You know, we've had several members there that have helped us with some information, you know, and just sort of give us something to look at. And also, I want to take a minute to give also some credit where credit's due. Is you know, some members, brothers of our current Grand Lodge, have been really helpful and helping us with some information and some ideas on things to look at. You know, brother, you know, past Grand Master David Lynch. I want to give a shout out to him. Our current, oh Lord, I'm
Grand
going. Our Grand Senior Warden, Brother Angelo DeSario. You know, I've talked with him, and he's been helpful, and certainly our closer brother, if you will, Junior Grand Ward, our Grand Junior Warden, Brother Patrick Grubbs, and has just been nothing more than help and supportive of trying to give us, you know, ideas or here's something to think about. Here's some food for thought or something like that, or just straight up be a cheerleader and, you know, rah, 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 you know, and we just really appreciate that from those brothers and everyone else. And I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that from them.
Well, I'd take a minute to say we have got a wonderful Grand Lodge, and the group of guys, you can Sam will tell you too. You know, we was lucky enough to have David Lynch, and we got one with our current Grandmaster Joe Farrell is supposed to be on next week.
Oh, great. And, fantastic.
He's a wonderful man. And, you know, Patrick, I got to cut in here with the story because I called him, and I've known Patrick for a long time. He's come and helped at Chester Lodge and a couple other lodges I belong to do degree work, right? And so I called him, and I got his phone number because he gave me his phone number. And I said, hey, Patrick, we're doing this podcast, and I'd like to get you on there. Well, I never heard back from him. And I thought, well, that's so odd because he usually calls me back. So I run into him, and I said, hey, Patrick, I said, you never called me back about the interview. And he said, oh, I thought that was a prank call. He goes, nobody's ever asked me to be on a podcast before. So, and if the people that know Patrick, you know, Patrick is Patrick. He's a great guy, but he's funny as all get out. Yes. You know, so yeah, I love him, and that's why I was giggling, not because of any other reason. I mean, these are some great guys, but Patrick just cracked me up with that.
No, yeah, that's funny.
they are the tip of the spear, and I mean, I'm just it's just got, you know, flooding me with a lot of memories of all the types of lodges I visited in the US and in England, and you said you had 4 commercial units and one's renting. I mean, that's a start. You know, if you can get the other 3 commercial units renting for you know, good standing businesses, that's rental income. Yep. That's going to be huge, and it's just, you know, garnering that kind of interest and getting the right kind of suitor and renter in that sense, basically. And in terms of you know, numbers, I mean, one of the shows this episode in particular is how to grow your lodge, and what are the kind of like the outliners, and what have you guys have done to basically build your lodge?
Well, and absolutely, and I don't mean to cut in, but what I wanted to tell people is Cairo has went from a booming metropolis to really having a hard way to go as far as a city. And they can maybe clarify on that a little bit. And that's going into them having trouble. If you guys could get into that a little bit more about the decline of Cairo.
So I'd say a good example of the decline is very recently, within the last 4 or 5 years, just stumbled across tax lien sales at the county records, and there was an opportunity that if you had the cash, you could have bought a fair share of the entire city for less than
roughly 300,000.
about $300,000.
Wow.
Because there was so many places and that had just been let go, and of course then the taxes go unpaid and the county takes them. So the decline is dramatic and stark. The streets are pretty. I mean, there's still a lot of good people that live there and maintain, and we've got some touristy type historical manors that you can visit. So there is a little bit, but as far as commerce and in the town still today, there's no real gas station in town.
There is no gas. There is no gas station in town.
There's a co-op.
There is a co-op grocery store.
Fairly recent.
We do have $2 Generals, if that helps.
Well, there you go.
But that is it's a very stark contrast when you look at the history, and you can tell that everybody would travel to Cairo to get their goods and trade their goods and do their business back in the day. And now everybody drives across the river or up to St. Louis, Missouri, or something like that now.
Well, even so much, for if you're familiar with the area, we have Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which is just about 45-minute drive from us.
Across Mississippi.
Across Mississippi. And then we also have Paducah, Kentucky, which is on the other side. So
across the Ohio
River. And they're about the same distance apart, drive time. And, I don't know what the current population of each one of those cities are, but well above 40,000, probably closer to 60, I wouldn't imagine.
Not huge
but at one time, Cairo was larger than they were, and people from those areas came to Cairo to do their shopping for clothing and
even commercial trading.
Commercial trading stuff like that. So that's
were there.
That's just kind of to show you, and that even was 50s, early 60s, stuff like that. That was still going on. People were coming to Cairo because Cairo was the place to be. Cairo was the place to shop. Right. Cairo was the place to do business.
More, and I think you've got some of these numbers on your phone though, but more recently, what can you open that real quick? Okay. So our pre-COVID numbers, as far as not necessarily active, but current members, we were over about 120 or so.
Probably back, about 2020. Yeah, we were. I was looking here, trying to see.
Get some exact numbers. We have a rough idea, but it's always better to have real.
Yeah.
So, and now we're down to
I just lost that
in the 80s.
So anyway, I'm having trouble fumbling through that to find that. So as of right now, just to give you an outlook, our membership, our regular dues paying members, we have 59.
Right.
We have 13 life members. We have 11 honorary members, and then we do have 2 50-year members. So, if you add all that up, that's like right at 80. And roughly, and that's not too bad, but certainly 80 folks.
Not for a building that size, though.
Exactly.
And that's not, when I say active, I mean people that show up on a fairly frequent basis. We're nowhere close to that.
And we do have several members who live in Alabama, Mississippi, and they've moved and retired and what have you, but they still keep their membership here, and we're appreciative that they do, and because it's still home to them, or it's where they started, so to speak. So they don't want to lose that. So at least we have those members and that pay dues, but hey, we have a problem with the toilet's not working or something like that. We can't just call somebody from Mississippi or Alabama and say, hey, can you come? So the actual people to help do the manpower stuff. There's
most of them still just will send us a check happily if we need some support, but gathering enough people to get a project or a painting day or something where everybody would show up and help you as a project, that's a bit of a challenge for us, because I would say on average we get 10 to 12 members showing up is probably a good night.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible, though. I mean, for that,
you have, and also again, you might have picked it up, but hopefully you really pick it up. When you're in Cairo, there's 2 bridges, technically 3. There's the interstate bridge, but regardless of that, there's 2 bridges on the southern end of Cairo, and I can get in my car and for like what, a 5-minute, if that, and I can be in Missouri or Kentucky.
Right.
And quite often we have people, especially from Kentucky, come over and visit us on a fairly regular occasion.
That's awesome.
So
frequently, sometimes we forget they're actually visitors because they've been there so many times.
And so here's another point, just to bring that on home just a little bit more. Actually, the closest next lodge to us is actually in Wickliffe, Kentucky, and then our next Blue Lodge in Illinois. So our next Blue Lodge in Illinois is Dongola Lodge, and Dongola from Cairo, taking the interstate, driving 70 miles an hour, don't want to speed or anything like that. You better not anyway. But you're good 25 miles, 30-minute ish drive from the next lodge.
So to help
due to mergers and other things like that. So
to help other people kind of figure out where you are, how far mileage-wise are you from Marion? Because a lot of people knows where Marion, Illinois is.
So it's I don't know the exact mileage, but it takes me about 50 minutes on the interstate at 70 miles an hour.
Almost an hour.
So Cairo is exit 1 on Interstate 57, and the first exit coming up to the interstate to Marion is 53.
Yeah.
So if you want to use that as a gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, our worshipful master here, he actually lives in Marion, Illinois.
Okay.
And he takes that drive at least once a month, sometimes more, to make it to our lodge, talking about how dedication and faithfulness and stuff like that, just to prop him up a little bit. So, that
goes both ways.
So I've got a couple of things that's really interesting. I think there are some interesting insights here that's got me kind of excited. You're literally, as you said, 5 to 10 minutes between 2 other states. You have a lot of brethren, visitors from other states. Just to let people know, it's like provinces. If you're in England, different sections, different grand lodges, basically. So Kentucky's got their own grand lodge. Missouri's got their own grand lodge. And what's really interesting, though, is if you can build those bonds in between, the 3 states and the visitations like that, and having, as you said, you've got many visitors that you forget they're actually visitors. I think that's phenomenal because, for some of us, it's very difficult. If you're in central Illinois, I get excited going, to other states and seeing how they do their blue lodges and everything else. So the fact that you guys are so close, I think that's a plus.
I'll give you another example of that, if I may. So fairly recently, we had several fellows, our brothers from Kentucky, come over, and we knew there was maybe 1 or 2 out of the 6 that I didn't recognize, because a lot of times they'll bring other brothers. You got to come see Carroll Lodge because it's just that amazing and what have you, And there's one guy. He's came before. I know him and things like that, and we get ready, master gavels, and we get ready to do everything. And the next thing you know, he pulls out an apron, and I look at that. He looks at that and his jewel, and he's a Grand Lodge officer for the state of Kentucky. And we didn't realize that had happened. I'm like, do we need to give you grand honors? And, he was an appointed officer, so he's no, don't do that. But he's been there so many times, and we see him so often, and we didn't think nothing of it, and we didn't actually realize it until he actually just breaks out the apron. And
we had already talked to him a lot and discussed a lot of things. And he sat down to eat with us before. And like I said, he was almost just part of the crowd.
So our brothers from the other jurisdiction are just we don't think nothing about it.
Yeah, it just was
Sure.
very, very casual. But and he just was recently appointed to the Grand Line in his state
That's
of
awesome.
Kentucky. So it just thank you for the surprise. But we treated him, of course, with the proper respect after we knew that,
Yeah.
which made him feel awkward because he was already just sitting there as one of the Joes. And
Right.
which was good because that's the way our relationship was built already. So and yeah, he was really great about it, and he was able to convey a lot of the functions they were putting on in the state of Kentucky, and events that he had that some of the other lodge officers and lodge brothers from the closest Kentucky lodge to us, they have some information they share with us, but they didn't have all of the insights he had at being at the Grand Lodge of Kentucky,
Well,
and it was
I,
great.
I don't know how Sam feels, but I mean, I could keep going with you guys for another hour, but we try to keep it to a
Oh, sure, I understand.
certain
Sure.
thing. So we'll have to have you back. But before you go, I just like to say I know you're struggling, and the whole reason I want to get you guys on here is so you could help other people. Could you
Mhm.
tell people some of the ideas you have that's kind of to raise money for your lodge and how you're trying to get it built back up?
Yeah, so we touched on it at the beginning, or somewhere through the middle, I should say, where we got some insight and some input from other lodges. And one of the things that we decided to do was form a charitable foundation that would just be taking care of the building.
So basically, a temple association.
A temple association. And so we got a lot of direction. We got sample forms and sample language and everything like that so that we could maybe bring some bigger dollars and bigger grants in to restore this old building, because we're talking probably $1 million to bring that
I
building
bet.
back to
Yeah.
its heyday. So so we're on that path now to set that up, and fortunately, I can help consult a little bit. I do this for other 501c3s, and I'm on a few boards myself. So we're taking that path. But on a smaller scale, the things we've been trying to do to get membership more active and to raise funds, it really falls back on Brother Chris Duvall here, where we're trying to do stuff in the lodge to get the attention of our paying members who don't show up that much but still do live in the area, by being active, by just starting doing more things that would give them rather than just showing up and opening and reading your minutes and et cetera and closing and moving on. But so we're trying to do more active things. And
Oh, absolutely, because that will kill a lodge faster.
Well,
than
Yeah,
anything.
so- 'cause we need-
let me interject a couple of things, because I think there's some really important things that needs to be said, and it's really exciting that you. We need to have you back both on, because there's so much to cover, and it's just so great to listen to you both, and your enthusiasm is infectious. It's like, and I want to join Cairo Lodge now. If you guys were like 20 minutes away
come
from.
on. We'll
I know the secretary. He'll hook you up. So.
Well, my point.
Hey,
my,
will
my,
they feed us if we come down there?
Well, here's a couple of things. Here's a couple of things we forget, and I think Cairo Lodge, if you look at it historically, is emblematical of that as well. And what you guys are talking about is how to retain the membership. And so many times I see the lodges with good intentions and good brethren who just turn up, they do the minutes, and they disappear. And after all, they have to put a degree on, and then they get together for just that. And there's so much more for brotherhood. Whether it's making an effort to go out or stay in the lodge and have a festive board later. Something I've tried to do a lot in St. Paul's Lodge, they love it, is doing a festive board, doing toasts. We toast the Grand Master, then we toast the Grand Line, then we toast the worshipful master. If there's a new candidate or coming in, we get him up and toast to him, and then say, okay, now give us a speech. Even at the festive board, we toast the officers that participated if we were doing a degree. And it's just that bond, because the whole point of brotherhood is that bond, and getting together and getting to know about each other and building that bond, building that team. Now, sometimes in different lodges, one of my other favorite lodges, Frank and Nicole Lodge, is we decide to do the officers championship thing, where that we try to be the best in opening 1, 2, and 3, and through practice and getting together, we get the bonding. There's so many things you can do, and some things are more organic. So whatever you guys have got in plan, and it'd be great to listen to you guys and what retention. I call them retention events, where and what's the other thing that's important as well is what I really love, because what's broken my heart basically, in some places, not all places, but in some places. I mean, I'm sure there are areas in England as well. I'm sure there are areas well, especially your neck of the woods that you've seen. But I've seen in Peoria, Illinois as well, in central Illinois. It's heartbreaking to see these magnificent buildings just, we sell them. We've had all these buildings.
yeah.
We have all this real estate, and then the hammer goes down and it's gone. And then it's we become a shadow and a shade of our former selves, and then we go into these smaller and smaller. But it's not in all places, but in some places, in some geographical and or demographical areas, and a lot of it that you mentioned has got to do with the change in demographics over the decades. But what's really exciting for me is you are literally rebuilding the second temple of King Solomon. You are literally getting there, and you are saying, no, there's a reason for this, and there's a reason to rebuild. And having 12 members active is strong. The craft is strong in your area, and what I try to remind everyone is you only need 1 to 2. 2 would be nice, 3 would be great. 1 to 2, or even if you're lucky, 3 new master masons a year who are dedicated to come and join and be part of the brotherhood. Because if you go for a long-term 5-year plan, let's just say, if you have, that's 10 extra dedicated members on top of the 12. That's 22 members. If you're able to retain the initial 12 and the existing 10, and sometimes, well, I think not everyone, but I think we fall short in the retention of our new members. And sometimes our expectation of our new members, I think we have too many high expectations. I think they're the most important to take care of. Pick up the phone. Hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? What are you doing? Sometimes we expect them just to turn up after we've done done their degree work. There's a lot more effort that needs to take place to not only retain the people we put through our degree work, but also show them the value in what we do and how we do it. And so I'm really excited listening to what you guys are doing. And there's a lot of light because of you, both of you and your brethren in Cairo. And we need to get them back on, because this was really interesting. And,
and they're also selling coins.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah.
And
So just real quick, a most recent endeavor, if you will, as far as I know, first time ever, we had made lodge lapel pins and our own lodge challenge coins, and the challenge coin in particular, I would show you if I could, but basically
Well, if you guys will send me some pictures of stuff, I will put it on our Facebook page.
Oh, I'll get to that. I'll do that.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Let me give you the short version. I don't mean to cut you off, Chris, but Christopher Duvall did most of the work on these coins. We got some input for some other officers, but he used the artist or the architecture's rendition of the finished building in its original glory.
Oh,
They
wow.
struck that on one side with the dates of the charter and the dates of the cornerstone, and on the reverse side.
On one side, you have a picture of the 3-story building that we've been discussing, with the cornerstone date as well as the dedication date.
Right.
On the other obverse side, you have a close, what's the word I'm looking for? I won't say facsimile, but it's very close to our lodge seal. It's not exact, but it's close enough. It's close. It's close. And it has our charter date and stuff like that. So, and it's really a cool coin, and we've been getting a lot of feedback from that. And we've been selling those. Also, to raise a little bit of money, but also not just to raise a little bit of money for ourselves, but to also get awareness out and say, hey, we may be forgotten, maybe, but we're still here.
Yeah, and we have a wonderful lodge. That's why we put it on.
And we have a wonderful lodge. Please come see it, and you can do your part as well if you would like to purchase one of these coins for a nominal fee, and and the thing I want you also to understand about Cairo. Now, I was born and raised in Cairo, so I want you to know that myself. And Cairo folks are I want to say different folks, but we definitely are thick-skinned. We definitely don't give up easily, and if there is just a glimmer of hope, we'll certainly attach ourselves to that and run toward that and champion that to the extent that we can. We don't die easily, so to speak.
Proper warriors, love it.
So just before we get off here, I'm going to ask these two gentlemen will you ship these coins for an extra
Yeah.
couple bucks or something?
Yeah, for extra couple of bucks, we will ship those, ship the coins and pins.
Okay, so I'm going to get all their information from them and have them email that to me or text me, and I will put that on the Facebook page. So by the time you guys can listen to this, their information, if you want to look at our Facebook page, it'll have the picture of the coin front and back, and we'll also have the cost with the shipping.
Yeah.
So you can help out. It's a worthy cause.
Great.
And like I will say, we're gonna have to wrap it up. And usually Sam's saying that, but anyway, I'm going to tell you Godspeed, and I wish the best for you guys, and I'll do everything I can to help you.
Well,
and
sure
Sam, do you have anything else you want to say?
I don't want to stop, but we're going to have to get them back because there's so many more interesting topics to talk about, and it's such a pleasure. And I think they've kind of started something that's kind of interesting, and a look into the lodges across the state and around the world. And Cairo being the first, having them back, and listening to these two brothers more, these two fantastic gentlemen, will be an absolute joy. The reason why I've been so quiet, I've just been intently listening to their enthusiasm, which is infectious. So my last words are, don't never give up. I love it, the fact that you are fighting to keep this grandiose building where possibly, Grant and Mark Twain were members, which is huge because they are two absolutely huge pillars and iconic figures of American history. So we're looking forward to having you back.
Well, they visited, right?
Yep. So all visited. We don't know. We're gonna find out more about that, and I'm just very, very excited to get you guys back on and find out what else you found. And that gives everyone around the world about how integral Masonry has been to communities, not only in Europe but around the world, and especially in Illinois, and have been so foundational. And it's men like you, brothers like you, that start a spark. And maybe not in your lifetime, but maybe after your lifetime, there's a cycle. There is a regeneration. Absolutely. There's a fall. There's a regeneration, and we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what tech brings us, but you could become the next tech hub. Next thing you know, some investor comes in, boom, you got a massive tech warehouse and something that pulls up a lot of people. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. So as long as you keep building, and don't let that flame stop. The reason why I'm so excited is our buildings are sacred, and what a lot of people forget is that a lot of our brothers put a lot of their coin, their blood and sweat and labor into these buildings. And sometimes what breaks my heart is the lack of understanding of that, and going for the quick buck to sell, and seeing these buildings being demolished or reused or redone in some other way, where we could have. It's just hard work. It's a lot of hard work. That's all it is. It's effort and hard work. And as you said, where there's a speck of hope, these phenomenal buildings can be restored, renovated, and it may be a long slog ahead, but you know what? It's worth it. Those are my last words.
Great.
Well, thank you two brothers. I certainly appreciate you and letting us be on here and share some time with you, and certainly want to do it. Certainly willing to do it again.
Yeah.
And,
that's the deal. If you appreciate it, then you're going to come back on again.
We just appreciate you and what you do and what you have started with this podcast with Masonry and sort of getting the word out there, so to speak. So
we'll be sure to, as we proceed, we'll be sure to take copious notes on our activities and the things we're starting and working on, so that next time we come back, we can be maybe a bit more concise about some of the progress we've made in the project.
You know what? This is wonderful information. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to On the Level Podcast, your Masonic podcast. When you are ready, duly and truly prepared, you can always knock on the door.